Hi guys, welcome to today's session. This is going to be the third, was this no, maybe like the fifth or sixth, I think, in this series, covering mixed media, still life, drawing, painting, a bit of a mixture. So we started with charcoal, mixture of compressed or sort of charcoal pencils and traditional willow charcoal, which is the sort of basis of the darker tones, before kind of doing a few passes over that. And then last week we spent some time doing some heightening with this white paint. So I think it was like a acrylic that we were using. So this week I'm just going to be using graphite. The graphite's going to be for sort of going in and refining some of these edges, filling in some, sort of smoothing out, filling in some portions, and also starting to add details over the kind of lighter dark tones. So yeah, that's what we're going to be working on. And then next week will be probably our final session, I think, and we'll be sort of going in and working probably with all three media, so a mixture of paint, graphite and charcoal, just to get everything to a reasonable finish. But we're sticking with a fairly kind of loose style, but gives you an idea of how you can combine all these different media. So we can start just by looking at how we can sort of smooth out areas using the graphite. So you can see I've got these sort of slightly patchier tones, and just slightly working, it's like I'm using a sort of 2B, possibly a B mechanical pencil. I don't need to go super dark, because all I need to do is darken the sort of tone of the paper sufficiently to remove the general texture, but not necessarily I don't have to go as dark as the charcoal. The graphite is not going to go as dark as the charcoal. But there you can see how that tone is evening out. What I might do actually is just for this bit, I'm going to zoom in a bit, just so you can see kind of closer up. I'll work on the ham to begin with, focusing on that as well. I'm also going to grab my marl stick, because although I have actually fixed part of the drawing, it's not totally fixed, so some of the charcoal might still be a bit loose. And the graphite will go over the white paint as well as the paper, which is nice about it. Charcoal should as well. So I'm going to start putting more of the more specific shapes into the darker parts of this ham. we can look for a little bit of reflected light. There's a kind of a nice amount of reflected light bouncing up off this plate into the bottom of this ham. So I'm just looking for these darker shapes and lighter shapes inside the ham. Sort of cut surface of the ham. And I should still have some scope, so if I need to erase, again here it would be nice to go in and erase this lighter shape out a bit. Yeah, it's still erasing fine. So looking for gradually smaller forms in these darker shapes of the ham. So you can see how the pencil kind of just helps to fairly accurately and quickly get in these sorts of smaller shapes. See what time are we at? About 13 minutes or so in. So I think probably won't maybe quite get to the lighter portions of the these shapes, but I'm going to zoom out a little bit, swivel over. Focus in. And I'm going to do just a little bit of work on the leaves. Just going to neatening them up as well. And again, just using the graphite to kind of fill in. Not working heavily. If I work too heavily, I'm going to make the surface too sort of shiny. But just kind of filling in, adding some finer details. The graphite, I mean, the other thing the graphite does is it sort of evens out the tone because it shifts the charcoal around slightly, which is why you're not totally relying on the graphite itself, you're also relying on the graphite shifting the charcoal around a little bit, which sort of nullifies that effect where graphite tends to go a little bit too shiny. It works better in kind of the intermediate tones than super dark tones, so it works moderately well here with these leaves because they do have a kind of sort of slightly shinier quality to them, and it's nice to get them a bit more definitively drawn in. So I'm just going to use it to add some slightly more specific little reflections to this mug. And again, sort of even out those tones that are already there, already present. And I can still go back in, so if I need to erase anything I can lift. It's not going to lift as much because we fixed this slightly. So it's not too bad. And as I say, when we come back to this next week, probably do a little bit more work in pencil and then go back and kind of finalize all the highlights and the accents. But that's not too bad. Probably the only kind of final things I could have a look at are just this sort of shoring up the edge of this bottle a bit, which I'll probably go over. Again, I'll go over with charcoal as well, but you can just sharpen up these edges. We can start to think a bit about edges are usually sort of one of the final things that we work on. don't necessarily want this bottle to be quite as crisp as the one in front. We're going to have a look at this next week, but in terms of controlling edges, generally you want your objects that are further back to have slightly softer edges, which just kind of pushes them slightly. Yeah, I think that's not too bad for this week. So we've only really got the final details to pop into the front of the image. Just angle back down a bit. So things like the lettering down in this letter, the sort of forms, the kind of lighter forms and shadows in the napkin, just to give it a bit more of a turn. And then we'll go in and do our highlights and dark accents, or light highlights and dark accents. I have noticed that this looks sort of noticeably wonky, this bottle, so I just want to balance it out. We can also have a look at it next week as well. But yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can work the pencil into it. And then next week we'll be using everything and just trying to finish it off and pull everything together. But yeah, that's it for this week. As always, you can subscribe to the channel on YouTube for this and lots of other tutorial series. And you can also follow the link through to sign up for courses at OCAD, where you'll receive guidance from myself and other expert tutors. But yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys soon.